Hello and welcome to MAGA, the podcast. Now, this is not your racist uncle's MAGA. Our MAGA stands for I'm an Angry Asshole, the cult of Donald Trump. And I'm your host, the disgusted American. The mission of our show is to highlight how Don the Con bamboozled our nation. Our goal is to help make sure the cult of MAGA goes down in flames by 2028, to stop it before it becomes unstoppable and our democracy decays or further decays into a dictatorship. If we want the cult of MAGA to end, we have to know how it began and why it spread. We have to go back to Trump 1.0, the election of 2016. So in our last episode, we took a look at Russia's role in the 2016 election. We explored how Putin really wanted Trump to win, and how the Mueller investigation ultimately determined that Russia's intelligence machine did meddle in the election, but there was no direct proof of collusion between Trump's campaign and the Russian government. And at the end of the day, regardless of what Russia tried to do, it was Americans that elected Donald Trump. We ultimately did this to ourselves. So in this episode, we're going to explore why Russia focused on Facebook. Of all of the social media options, I think it's important before we jump into today's episode to link and explore and acknowledge what's happening right now in 2025 in yet another attempt to distract from the Epstein list. Tulsi Gabbard just attacked Barack Obama over 2016 Russian interference in the election. And what's really pathetic about all of this is Gabbard's essentially parroting Russian intelligence over American intelligence. She's even more of a joke than she was before.
Caroline Leavitt first came on, and then Tulsi Gabbard did. And you may have heard that she declassified today a document that she insists disproves the idea that Russia was trying to get Trump elected in 2016. But then she went on to talk about the information that she says Russia had about then Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton in 2016. And I'm sure you're going to hear about this. I'm sure you're going to see references to it. And as I say, I sat down and read the document because I know that stuff really well. And what she was saying didn't sound right to me. And here's the kicker. First of all, the material in the report that she released came from Republicans only who objected to the bipartisan investigations of the Trump campaigns working alongside Russian operatives in 2016. And that's been really quite well established, including by the Senate Intelligence Committee that was chaired by none other than Marco Rubio, right? So the material that she released today does not contradict what they found, which is that Russia wanted Donald Trump elected in 2016. It worked to get him elected, and that the Trump campaign worked at least in parallel with that, but that it does not appear that the Russians managed to alter any votes. And that's what basically all the reports have said. The Mueller report, the Senate Intelligence Committee report, all the reports that have come out on this since it happened in 2016, and the reports have been coming out since then. But the kicker to me, and the reason that I'm here doing this live, is because when she spoke today at the White House press conference, she read material from that report. And here's one of the things she said. This is a quote. She said that Russia had, and I quote, high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary, that is Hillary Clinton's, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. She also made other allegations that she said the Russians had evidence that Clinton had committed what appeared to have been crimes. And the reason, as I say, that I'm doing this is because what she never mentions is, if you read the report, that's information from Russian intelligence. That is literally the Russian Foreign Intelligence Services that said they had that information. So quite literally, the director of national intelligence from the United States of America stood at the White House today in front of the press and read information that came from Russian intelligence about a former candidate for president in the United States without ever telling people that that's where that information came from.
So if you want to look at the role of Facebook, we have to go back to other parts of Trump's campaign. You're going to kind of see going forward that the different villains in Trump's village of villains are interconnected. So when we take a look at Russia and Facebook, you have to go back to the mid-2010s. And in the middle of all this was Steve Bannon, who, outside of being in charge of Breitbart, was also a vice president of a company called Cambridge Analytica. This was a firm that collected data on millions of Facebook users without their informed consent.
It begins with a research firm, Cambridge Analytica. CA partnered with a UK-based academic, Alexander Kogan, who was using Facebook data for research purposes. Quizzes were sent to around 300,000 Americans. They looked innocuous. Over 100 personality traits to agree or disagree with. And you got paid less than $5. But there was a catch. To take the survey, you had to log into Facebook, which gave Kogan access to your profile, including your birth date, location, and most importantly, your Facebook likes. Kogan combined the quiz results with your Facebook data to develop a psychometric model, a sort of personality profile. He then combined this with voter records and sent them to Cambridge Analytica. CA claimed that these models were the heart of how they profiled you, your neuroses, and other exploitable traits. But Kogan and CA didn't stop there. His app also grabbed the personal data of your Facebook friends and compiled similar profiles of them. In just months, 270,000 people took Kogan's survey, and the data of up to 87 million friends was also harvested, close to 1/4 of all US Facebook users. CA then used that data to target people, maybe you, with political messaging. CA said this targeting helped the Trump campaign's strategy, but the campaign disputes this. Kogan's work claimed to be for academic research, but he also shared your information with Cambridge Analytica, a violation of Facebook's policies. So, was it a data breach? Facebook says no, that no passwords were stolen and no systems were infiltrated. But Mark Zuckerberg has said it was a breach of trust between Facebook and its users.
On March 17, 2018, The Guardian and the New York Times broke a story about a Cambridge Analytica whistleblower who said that the company had utilized 50 million Facebook profiles to do their modeling. According to former Analytica employee Christopher Wiley, Bannon oversaw this collection of Facebook data, which was then used to target American voters. Wiley, who helped with the creation of the company, referred to the company as a psychological warfare tool. The data they collected, under the guise of an external researcher for academic purposes, was then used for political advertising. It was used in Trump's campaign in 2016 and then in Brexit, in many cases causing and spreading fake news. And that information was used to target people with very specialized ads. And this technique of using these specialized ads on platforms like Facebook was known as micro-targeting. And it had never been done before. Cambridge Analytica claimed that they could use Facebook data to better target political messages to people that could be influenced, right? This whole thing known as micro-targeting. In 2016, Facebook themselves began classifying US users in more granular ways. They were able to zoom in on terms of political orientation, right? Folks that were conservative, liberal, and moderate, and their interests on specific candidates, issues, or initiatives. And they get all this from your behaviors, which websites you visited, how long you were there, what you liked and shared. From this information, operatives were able to create exquisitely tailored messages that allow political campaigns to operate at a relatively low cost with little or no regulatory constraints. So here's the thing about micro-targeting. The polarization it created was asymmetric. Pro-Clinton audiences were highly attentive to traditional media outlets, but pro-Trump audiences paid the majority of their attention to polarized outlets that have developed more recently, many of them only since the 2008 election season. And these outlets focus on scandals and sensational headlines. So this isolated media environment fed a paranoid style of American politics, where repetition through many associated sites made claims familiar to readers. And this fluency and repetition of these core narratives gave credence to the incredible. It made the abnormal seem normal.
This was Hofstadter's effort to think about why, in American history, there has often been recourse to explain very complicated events or phenomena by ascribing a conspiratorial intent behind them. That is to say that we can explain why certain things are happening because there are these conspirators out there that are trying to screw us over, that are trying to take advantage of us.
So this insulated news environment of the alt-right media sphere and the vehemence of attacks on journalism and common calls with a similarly outspoken president was new and distinctive. That was different than what's been done before. And so the right-wing media was able to focus on Trump's only, at this point, substantive agenda item, immigration. But right-wing media framed immigration in terms of scandal, again, terror and fear. Here are a couple of their favorite hits.
The Great Replacement theory has been around for a very long time on the fringe of the Republican Party and in racist circles. In recent years, we've seen the Republican Party and its members embrace a version of the theory that immigrants are being brought here to dilute the votes of Republicans and conservative Americans.
What appears to them is we're replacing national-born American, native-born Americans to permanently transform the political landscape.
Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America to ensure that they stay in power forever?
They can't win re-election in 2022 unless they bring in a large number of new voters to replace the voters that are already here. That's what this is about. We have an invasion in this country.
Fox News has played a major role in mainstreaming this idea in recent years.
Democrats who want to replace you, the American voters, with newly amnestied citizens.
Congress is not going to act because one party has a vested interest in changing the population.
If you use the term as an invasion, that's not anti-Hispanic, it's a fact.
I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
After a couple years, the hardline anti-illegal immigration movement really took off in the party in the form of Donald Trump sailing to the Republican Party nomination.
I think this will be the last election that the Republicans have a chance of winning because you're going to have people flowing across the borders. You're going to have illegal immigrants coming in and they're going to be legalized and they're going to be able to vote. And once that all happens, you can forget it.
Again, we see the seeds of 2025 and what was going on at this point of the 2016 election. What did any of this have to do with Facebook? So the University of Warwick over in the UK published in 2019 a report that stated during the 2012 US presidential campaign, an estimated 12% of Americans regularly received their campaign news from Facebook. But by 2016, that figure had grown to over 60%. And Facebook was ranked as the third most cited main source of information for the 2016 presidential election.
Social media is creating a new kind of political divide. And when you unfriend someone over a political argument, you're making that divide even deeper. I'll explain. This is your real-life social circle. Family, friends, classmates, coworkers. Many of these people are likely from a similar background as you and have a similar worldview. But your social news feed takes that to a new level. Facebook's algorithm promotes the types of posts that you like and share, and it hides away posts that put you off or that you don't interact with. This means you're unwittingly surrounding yourself with more people and news sites that just confirm your pre-existing views. This is called an echo chamber. It means you're only seeing ideas from people and media outlets who agree with you. And I'll let you in on a secret of social video and news. A lot of the new media industry is built off of the social share, and the easiest way to win that share from you is to confirm and vindicate your views. That's led to a boom in the number of news sites that push out clearly biased and sensational headlines. They know you'll like it and that you're likely to share it.
Trump's campaign spent $44 million on Facebook, running 175,000 variations of their micro-targeted political advertisements. Hillary Clinton's campaign only spent about $28 million on social media. They relied more heavily on traditional media outreach like TV, magazines, etc. And many scholars and journalists think that Facebook and Twitter may have significantly contributed to Donald Trump's election as the 45th president of the United States. Overall, reading political news on Facebook did affect voting choices. The University of Warwick study indicated that advertising on Facebook was an effective way to persuade and mobilize voters. But this effect only surfaced in a direction favoring Donald Trump. In the context of the 2016 presidential election, they found that political micro-targeting was especially effective when based on ideology, gender, and level of education. More specifically, targeted Facebook campaigning increased turnout among core Republican voters, but not among Democrats or independents. Political ads on Facebook increased the likelihood of voting by between 5 and 10%. Now remember, in 2016, Trump lost the popular vote to Clinton by nearly 3 million votes. Overall, Clinton had almost 400,000 more votes than Obama did in 2012. But it was the razor-thin majorities in deciding states, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all states that flipped red after having voted blue in 2012, that swung the election. Further results show that targeted Facebook campaigning appears to have reduced the probability of a voter changing his mind about which candidate to support. This is true among males, those without a college education, and those who initially declared themselves to be aligned with the Republican Party. Their findings provided support for this hypothesis that exposure to social media strengthens polarization. Our brains love fake news.
The 2016 presidential election saw fake news come out of nowhere. A BuzzFeed analysis showed that the top 20 fake news articles on Facebook generated more clicks than the top 20 real articles from every major publication combined. They were shared millions of times. And it's not that we're just sharing fake news. We appear to be believing the stories too. A recent poll found that people believe fake news articles were somewhat or very accurate 75% of the time. How can we be falling for fake news when we have these things? We have instant access to more information than we've ever had before. Debunking misinformation should be a piece of cake, right? Decades of brain research say, no. Turns out, our brains have other plans. A little something called cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is defined as a limitation in our thinking that can cause flaws in our judgment. It's kind of like an annoying brain glitch that can lead us to make faulty conclusions. Fake news often exploits this, and our brains love it, even if we're not conscious of it happening. Once we form conclusions, they're hella hard to change, even if we're presented with facts or evidence that directly contradict those conclusions. So what exactly is going on in our brains to make us think that fake news is real news? Why can't facts change our minds? There are many flavors of cognitive bias, but one of the most researched is confirmation bias. We seek out information that we believe or want to believe is true. It also leads us to ignore or minimize facts that threaten what we believe. So here's a study that explains how it works. Back in 2004, during the Kerry Bush election, researchers studied a group of 30 people, half Democrat, half Republican. Both candidates did what politicians do. They flip-flopped on the issues. Then the study asked the participants to analyze what the candidates said. The participants let the candidate in their own party off the hook, but were super critical of the candidate in the other party. When researchers looked at their brain scans, they found that the area of the brain responsible for reason, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, wasn't active. So people weren't using reason when evaluating the candidates they liked, but they were using the part of the brain that processes emotion, the orbital frontal cortex, a classic case of confirmation bias. And their brains were also rewarding them with the rush of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. So is there any upside to confirmation bias? Well, it could help protect us from ideas that may threaten our social standing and our tribe. Dan Kahan, a law and psychology professor at Yale University, calls it identity protective cognition. We humans are hypersocial, so it's more important to protect our values in our relationships with family and friends than it is to risk losing that by adopting new beliefs.
Overall, the study's results show that social media effectively empowered politicians to influence key groups of voters in electoral races. Their findings provided further evidence that recent political outcomes, such as Brexit and the election of Trump in 2016, may have been largely due to the effective use of data analytics. This micro-targeting really worked. On this episode, we explore the role of Facebook in the 2016 election, how the paranoid style of politics was really useful in micro-targeting people ripe for the immigration boogeyman, especially in this insular social media environment utilized by folks on the right before the 2016 election. So that's all we've got for tonight. If you want to help out the channel, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your preferred podcasting platform. And tell your fellow disgusted Americans where they can find us so they can give us a listen. Also, please, if you have a moment, leave us a rating on your platform so more folks can find the show. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a great night. New episodes drop usually on Wednesdays, sometimes on Thursdays. This is a one-man show after all. And I look forward to talking to you all again next week. Have a great night, folks. Ciao. Bye for now.